In 2012, the world mourned the loss of a voice that defined generations, Robin Gibb. But behind the glitter of disco fame and record-breaking success lay a story few truly understood. This is the tragic truth about Robin Gibb that shocked everyone. A life of soaring highs, devastating lows, and secrets that lingered long after his final note. From the dizzying heights of Saturday Night Fever to the private battles that shattered his world, the Bee Gees' journey was anything but ordinary. What hidden struggles haunted the man behind the music? And why did his death leave a void no harmony could ever fill? The voice of a generation. On December 22, 1949, on the Isle of Man, a musical legacy was born. Robin Hugh Gibb entered the world just 35 minutes before his twin brother, Maurice, beginning a bond that shaped modern music forever. From their earliest days, the Gibb household resonated with music, setting the stage for what became one of popular music's most remarkable legacies. Robin's father, Hugh, a drummer and band leader, and mother Barbara, a former singer, ensured that music was as fundamental to their children's upbringing as breathing. Along with older brother Barry, the twins discovered their natural gift for harmony at an astonishingly young age. While most children were learning nursery rhymes, the Gibb brothers were already composing original songs and teaching themselves to play instruments. Even in these formative years, there was something distinctive about Robin's voice, a quavering vibrato that carried emotional weight far beyond his years. This trademark, tremulous quality later became instantly recognizable to millions of fans worldwide. The family lived modestly, first on the Isle of Man and then in England, where they relocated in search of better opportunities. But it was their bold decision to emigrate to Australia in 1958 that would truly set the brothers on their path to musical immortality. In the sun-drenched suburbs of Brisbane, the teenage Gibbs began performing wherever they could. Local speedways, talent contests, and small television appearances. They called themselves the Bee Gees, a name widely believed to reference the brothers Gibb, though some claim it came from the initials of Australian promoters Bill Good and Bill Gates. Their first regular gig was at the Redcliffe Speedway, where they earned pocket money performing between races. Robin was just 12 years old, but already displaying the unique vocal characteristics that would one day make him a global star. While Barry often took lead vocals, it was Robin's distinctive counterpoint that gave their harmonies a haunting, unforgettable quality. The brothers' dedication to their craft was relentless. Each day after school, they would gather to practice, writing songs and perfecting their three-part harmonies. Their Australian career began modestly with the release of their first single, The Battle of the Blue and the Grey, in 1963. By 1965, they had achieved their first chart success with Wine and Women. During this period, Robin was developing not just as a singer, but as a songwriter, contributing increasingly sophisticated material to the group's repertoire. The brothers spent countless hours perfecting their harmonies, with Robin's voice often providing the high, emotional counterpoint that would become a hallmark of their sound. His first major lead vocal came on I Started a Joke, where his tremulous, vulnerable delivery perfectly captured the song's melancholic theme. But Australia, despite its beauty and the opportunities it had provided, began to feel limiting for the ambitious brothers. By 1966, sensing that their talents deserved a larger stage, they made the bold decision to return to England. With their parents' blessing, they boarded a ship back to the United Kingdom, determined to make their mark on the much larger British music scene. None of them could have imagined the extraordinary heights they would reach, or the tragic depths that awaited. Brothers in harmony. Landing in Southampton in early 1967, the Gibb brothers faced a British music scene dominated by the aftermath of the Beatles' revolution. Yet, within months, their unique sound carved its own distinctive niche, and Robin played a crucial role in this breakthrough. Their arrival in London coincided with a fortuitous meeting that changed their lives. Robert Stigwood, an ambitious young music entrepreneur, heard their demo tape and immediately recognized their potential. He signed them to his management company and secured them a recording contract with Polydor Records. The release of New York Mining Disaster, 1941, marked their first international hit, with Robin's haunting lead vocals creating a sound so distinctive that many listeners initially mistook them for the Beatles. This comparison was not unwelcome. It put them squarely in the spotlight. What happened next was nothing short of remarkable. Massachusetts, featuring Robin's lead vocals, soared to #1 in the UK and across Europe. "I've Got to Get a Message to You," and "I Started a Joke" followed, each showcasing Robin's distinctive vibrato and emotional depth. The latter, in particular, became forever associated with him, its philosophical lyrics and melodic complexity reflecting his emerging artistic personality. During this period, Robin's individual identity began to emerge more strongly. While Barry's falsetto would later define the disco era, it was Robin's vibrato that gave the group's early hits their distinctive character. His songwriting contributions grew increasingly sophisticated, often exploring deeper, more complex themes than typical pop fare. But the sudden success brought its own pressures that would soon reveal the first cracks in Robin's seemingly charmed life. The relentless schedule of recording, promoting, and touring began to take its toll on the 19-year-old. What fans couldn't see behind the hit records and television appearances was a young man struggling with the demands of sudden fame. By 1969, tensions within the Bee Gees had grown significantly. The once tight-knit group was facing creative differences and personal frustrations that began to weigh heavily on Robin. As the band's sound evolved, Robin felt increasingly overshadowed by his brothers Barry and Maurice, both in terms of songwriting influence and vocal spotlight. This shift made him feel somewhat sidelined, as if his contributions were being diminished. Additionally, Robin grew frustrated with the musical direction the group was taking, feeling it was moving away from the style he was passionate about. These mounting pressures reached a breaking point, and after much soul-searching, Robin made the difficult and surprising decision to leave the Bee Gees. He was determined to pursue his own path and prove himself as a solo artist, eager to explore new musical ideas and regain creative control over his work. This marked a major turning point both for Robin personally and for the future of the Bee Gees. His first solo single, Saved by the Bell, reached #2 in the UK charts, proving that his distinctive voice could stand on its own. His solo album, Robin's Reign, followed, showcasing his artistic vision and range. Yet despite this initial success, something was missing: the magical chemistry he shared with his brothers. This period of separation, though brief, revealed both the strength of Robin's individual talent and the undeniable power of the brothers' combined voices. By 1970, the pull of fraternal harmony proved stronger than individual ambition. The brothers reconciled and reunited, setting the stage for what would become their most extraordinary decade. Their sound began to evolve, incorporating new influences and pushing boundaries that would eventually lead them to their next great transformation. Yet, despite this reunion, the experience had left its mark on Robin. The incident had revealed his sensitivity, his artistic temperament, and perhaps most importantly, a vulnerability that would remain with him throughout his life, foreshadowing tragic struggles yet to come. The early 1970s marked a period of transition for the Bee Gees. After their reunion, they struggled to recapture their earlier success. Their albums, while critically respected, failed to generate the chart-topping hits of their late 1960s heyday. By 1974, they were at a creative and commercial crossroads. It was during this period of uncertainty that Robin's resilience would prove crucial to the group's survival. While struggling professionally, he was finding personal happiness with his first wife, Molly Hullis, a secretary at Robert Stigwood's organization. They married in 1968 and had 2 children, Spencer and Melissa. This stability provided Robin with an emotional anchor during the group's lean years. The turning point came when the brothers decided to reinvent their sound. Moving temporarily to Miami, they began working with producer Arif Mardin, who encouraged them to explore a more rhythm-driven approach. The result was 1975's Main Course album, featuring the breakthrough hit Jive Talkin', a dramatic shift toward a more dance-oriented sound that would redefine their career. This transformation also marked a change in Robin's role within the group. While Barry's falsetto became more prominent, Robin adapted his distinctive voice to complement their new direction. His contributions remained vital, providing depth and emotional resonance that balanced the group's increasingly rhythmic focus. But it was their contribution to the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack in 1977 that would cement their place in music history. The film's producer, Robert Stigwood, invited the Bee Gees to provide several songs for a movie about the disco scene in Brooklyn. The brothers, remarkably, wrote most of their contributions in a single weekend. The resulting soundtrack became a cultural phenomenon without precedent. Selling over 40 million copies worldwide and winning multiple Grammy Awards, it dominated the charts for months. Robin's vocals were crucial on tracks like More Than a Woman and How Deep Is Your Love, where his voice added emotional depth and sophistication to the disco beats. For a time, it seemed that Robin had found both personal and professional fulfillment. The Bee Gees weren't just part of the disco movement, they were helping define it. Their achievements during this era were staggering. 6 consecutive #1 singles, multiple Grammy Awards, and record-breaking album sales. They became the only group in pop history to write, produce, and record 6 straight #1 hits. Behind the scenes, however, Robin was experiencing the dizzying heights of success while wrestling with its pressures. The brothers were writing and producing hits, not just for themselves, but for other artists. Barbra Streisand, Dionne Warwick, and Kenny Rogers among them. The workload was immense, and Robin, always the perfectionist, felt the strain intensely. The demands of constant recording, touring, and public appearances began to affect Robin's health and personal life. Long periods away from his family created tensions at home. His marriage to Molly began to show signs of strain under the relentless pressure of global fame. Yet few fans glimpsed these private struggles. What the public saw was a confident performer at the height of his powers, helping to create some of the most enduring music of the era. The tragic truth that would eventually shock everyone remained hidden behind the glittering facade of disco stardom. But the cracks were beginning to show. The shadow behind success. While Stayin' Alive played in discos worldwide and the Bee Gees dominated charts across the globe, Robin Gibb was living a double life that few fans ever suspected. Behind the flashing lights and adoring crowds lurked a painful reality that would eventually lead to one of the most shocking aspects of his legacy. Robin's sensitivity, which made him such a compelling artist, also made him vulnerable to the pressures of fame. As early as the late 1960s, during the group's first flush of success, he had begun struggling with amphetamine use, a dependency that would resurface throughout his life during periods of stress. His marriage to Molly Hullis, once a source of stability, began crumbling under the weight of his fame. The long separations, the constant travel, and the intense pressures of stardom created unbridgeable distances. By 1980, after 12 years of marriage, they divorced. Throughout these personal struggles, Robin maintained an almost obsessive dedication to his craft. In the studio, his perfectionism was legendary. He would spend hours refining vocal parts, often pushing himself and others to exhaustion in pursuit of the perfect take. This relentless drive produced extraordinary music, but took a toll on his physical and mental health. His most constant relationship during this turbulent period was with his twin Maurice. This connection went beyond music. They supported each other through personal struggles, with Maurice helping Robin through his darkest moments. The early 1980s brought another devastating blow: the disco backlash. Almost overnight, the genre that had brought them unprecedented success became a liability. Radio stations banned their music and album sales declined sharply. The brothers, who had once seemed untouchable, found themselves struggling to adapt to a rapidly changing musical landscape. Robin responded by diving deeper into solo work, releasing How Old Are You in 1983, which produced a hit single in Boys Do Fall in Love. He found personal happiness during this period with his second wife, Edwina Murphy, an artist and druid priestess whom he married in 1985. Their relationship, marked by shared interests in history and the arts, brought a new stability to his life. The 1990s marked a period of reinvention for the Bee Gees. The critical reassessment of their legacy, culminating in their induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1997, signaled a shift in public perception. No longer dismissed as mere disco stars, they were finally recognized as master songwriters whose influence spanned decades. Robin embraced this renaissance with characteristic dedication. Now in his 40s, he seemed to have found a balance between his musical career and personal life. His marriage to Edwina provided stability, and the birth of their son, Robin John, in 1983, gave him new purpose. They settled in a converted 12th century monastery in Oxfordshire, where Robin built a state-of-the-art recording studio. His commitment to environmental causes and humanitarian work became increasingly central to his public life during this period. Robin became a passionate advocate for green energy and wildlife conservation, using his platform to raise awareness about climate change. He served as president of the International Federation of Festival Organizations, promoting cultural exchange through music. In 2002, he was awarded a CBE along with his brothers, recognizing not just their musical achievements, but their humanitarian work. Yet beneath this seemingly idyllic existence lurked unspoken fears that Robin kept largely to himself. The Gibb family's medical history cast a long, dark shadow over his thoughts, one marked by loss and hidden struggles. His youngest brother, Andy, who had carved out a successful solo career in the late 1970s, died tragically in 1988 at just 30 years old. Officially, his death was attributed to myocarditis, an inflammation of the heart muscle triggered by a viral infection. But years of cocaine abuse had severely weakened Andy's heart, leaving a haunting reminder of the demons that plagued the family behind closed doors. Their father, Hugh, passed away a few years later in 1992, adding to the weight of grief that Robin carried. These personal tragedies made Robin acutely aware of his own mortality and the fragile balance between fame, success, and the private battles waged within the family. More concerning were the digestive issues that had begun troubling him intermittently. Given his family's history of intestinal problems, these symptoms caused private anxiety. Yet Robin, characteristically, channeled his energy into his work rather than dwelling on these fears. His creative spirit found new outlets during this period. He collaborated with his son, Robin John, on classical works, including the Titanic Requiem, an ambitious project that merged classical compositions with contemporary elements. This late career exploration showed his willingness to push boundaries and explore new musical territories, even after decades in the industry. Behind closed doors, however, Robin's health concerns were becoming more difficult to ignore. By the early 2000s, he was experiencing recurring abdominal pain and digestive problems. Though he consulted doctors, he was reluctant to undergo invasive procedures or lengthy hospital stays that would interrupt his creative work. This reluctance would soon prove to have devastating consequences. But before Robin's own health crisis unfolded, the family faced another tragic blow. In January 2003, Robin's twin brother, Maurice, was rushed to a Miami hospital suffering from severe abdominal pain caused by a twisted intestine. Despite emergency surgery, complications worsened, and Maurice suffered a fatal heart attack during a second operation. He was only 53. Maurice's sudden death shattered Robin's world. This was not just the loss of a brother, but the loss of a lifelong partner, the twin with whom he had shared a womb. Countless memories, and a remarkable musical journey. Their connection had always been more than brotherly. It was almost supernatural in its closeness. In the wake of this heartbreaking loss, Robin felt the weight of a profound void. He declared that the Bee Gees could no longer be the same, saying, "What made Maurice's death even more traumatic for Robin was the nature of the medical condition that claimed him: intestinal blockage." Given Robin's own history of digestive issues, Maurice's death forced him to confront the possibility that he might share a similar vulnerability. Despite his grief and private fears, Robin continued to create music. He recorded solo material and collaborated with other artists. On the surface, he appeared to be moving forward professionally, but those closest to him noticed changes, periods of introspection, an intensified work ethic, as if racing against some unseen clock, and a new urgency to complete projects that meant the most to him. The unspoken fears that had haunted Robin for years were slowly moving from the shadows into the light, setting the stage for the final shocking chapter of his remarkable life. History repeating. In 2010, the tragic truth about Robin Gibb that had lurked beneath the surface for years finally began to emerge into public view. While on tour in Belgium, he experienced severe abdominal pain that left him unable to perform. Rushed to a hospital in Oxford, doctors discovered a blocked intestine, the same condition that had claimed his twin brother Maurice's life 7 years earlier. Emergency surgery saved Robin's life, but the parallels to Maurice's final illness were impossible to ignore. The discovery sent shockwaves through Robin's family and close friends. History seems to be repeating itself in the most cruel and literal way. Robin approached his recovery with characteristic determination. Within weeks, he was back in his studio, working on new projects, including the Titanic Requiem with his son. To the public, he projected an image of resilience and optimism. In interviews, he downplayed the severity of his condition, focusing instead on upcoming creative endeavors. But privately, the experience had shaken him profoundly. The surgery had revealed not just a blocked intestine, but potentially more serious underlying issues. Doctors advised additional tests and regular monitoring, warnings that Robin, always reluctant to dwell on health problems, did not always heed as diligently as his family wished. By April 2011, Robin could no longer ignore the signs that something was seriously wrong. Persistent abdominal pain and digestive issues forced him back to his doctors. After comprehensive testing, he was diagnosed with colorectal cancer, which had already spread to his liver. The diagnosis was devastating, yet somehow not entirely unexpected to Robin. There had been too many warning signs, too many parallels with Maurice's health struggles. The tragic truth that would shock his fans worldwide was that Robin had been battling not just cancer, but a sense of inevitable destiny, a feeling that he might share the same fate as his twin. Initially, Robin and his family decided to keep the diagnosis private. He began aggressive treatment, including 7 rounds of chemotherapy. Throughout this grueling process, he maintained an active schedule whenever his strength permitted, even making several public appearances. In October 2011, Robin was rushed to the hospital with severe abdominal pain. He was diagnosed with an inflamed colon, another complication related to his deteriorating health. Yet even as his physical condition worsened, his determination to complete his creative projects, particularly the Titanic Requiem, never wavered. By January 2012, rumors about Robin's health had become impossible to ignore. Looking gaunt and frail in rare public appearances, he finally acknowledged his cancer diagnosis in an interview with The Mail on Sunday. He said in what would be one of his final interviews, "This candid acknowledgement shocked fans who had been unaware of the severity of his condition. The man whose voice had soared on some of popular music's most uplifting songs was fighting for his life, facing the same medical demons that had claimed his twin brother." In February 2012, Robin made what would be his final public appearance at the Soldiers' Charity Concert at the London Palladium. Despite his visibly weakened state, he received a standing ovation. It was a poignant last moment in the spotlight for a man who had spent his life performing. In March, he fell into a coma after contracting pneumonia. Though he briefly regained consciousness in late April, what his family described as a remarkable recovery that defied his doctor's expectations, it proved to be only a temporary reprieve. On May 20th, 2012, Robin Gibb passed away, surrounded by his family at a London hospital. He was only 62 years old. The shocking revelation: when Robin Gibb passed away, the world mourned the loss of a legendary voice. But what many fans didn't initially realize was the full extent of the genetic tragedy that had claimed him. A shocking revelation that would only emerge completely in the aftermath of his death. Medical reports released after Robin's passing painted a complicated picture of his final illness. While liver and colon cancer had been the primary diagnosis made public during his lifetime, doctors revealed that Robin had also suffered from a congenital intestinal condition, similar to what had killed his twin brother Maurice 9 years earlier. This genetic predisposition to intestinal problems had plagued Robin for decades, though he had largely kept his struggles private. The twisted intestine that had necessitated emergency surgery in 2010 was not an isolated incident. Robin had experienced intermittent symptoms throughout his adult life, but had often dismissed them, focusing instead on his music. The tragic truth that shocked everyone was that Robin's death represented a cruel pattern in the Gibb family medical history, a pattern that had claimed his twin brother Maurice at nearly the same age and from similar causes. Their youngest brother Andy, though dying from heart inflammation at 30, had also suffered from digestive issues throughout his short life. Family members later revealed that Robin had been haunted by Maurice's death, sometimes expressing the belief that whatever had taken his twin might eventually claim him as well. This premonition had influenced his approach to his own health, creating a complex psychological relationship with his symptoms, alternating between denial and fatalistic acceptance. The revelation of this genetic component to Robin's death added a layer of Greek tragedy to the Bee Gees' story. 3 talented brothers who had conquered the world with their harmonies, only to be struck down one by similar medical conditions. Of the 3 brothers who had formed the core of the Bee Gees, only Barry remained. What do you think about Robin's determination to create music even as he faced his final days? Did learning about his genetic health struggles change how you view his contributions to the Bee Gees? Share your thoughts in the comments below.